Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
This is Fish Jelly.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm alive in the world today. How are you?
Okay. You learned a new word this morning,
Sitzfleisch.
which means
It's a word for buttocks, but also for great perseverance, endurance.
in German.
It's a German origin word. Yes.
Okay. Thanks for sharing.
That was just that's in the flotsam and jetsam of the moment.
Flow of the morning.
The flow of the morning. Yes. Sitzfleisch.
Well, we know how you love to go with the flow. So I don't give a shit about award shows, but today is the 97th Academy Awards, which is happening down the street from us and will start in about 4 hours. So I thought at the bare minimum, we should at least get your predictions for the acting categories, and then maybe like best director and best picture.
Oh, I didn't realize you were doing that, but okay, sure.
Well, it's not hard. So actor in a leading role, the nominees are Adrien Brody for The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Ralph Fiennes for Conclave, and Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice. Who do you think will win?
I think Adrien Brody will win, especially with all that drama recently about they always talk to these anonymous Oscar voters who all sound like dum-dums usually, but at least two of them were convinced that Ralph Fiennes had already won an Oscar for Schindler's List, so they stated that they didn't vote for him because of that, and then voted for Adrien Brody, who has won an Oscar already. Ugh. People are so stupid. Anyway, and also evidence of why we should really not care about the Oscars. But
who would you like to win?
Out of those people, it'd be nice to see Coleman get an Oscar, but I don't think he's probably the only person he's probably more sure of to win. I'd say is Sebastian Stan, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I would like to see Adrien win. I think he did a fantastic job in The Brutalist.
Actor in a supporting role. The nominees are Yura Borisov for Nora, Kieran Culkin for Real Pain, Edward Norton for Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. Who do you think will win?
I think Kieran Culkin has all the buzz. And again, I'm not really following what anybody's really saying, but I would assume that he's probably going to win based on conversations I've heard.
Who would you like to win?
Yura Borisov.
Actress in a leading role. The nominees are Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carlos Sofia Gascon for Emilia Perez, Mikey Madison for Nora, Demi Moore for The Substance, and Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. Who do you think will win?
This is more of a mix-up. We all know who's definitely not winning this award, but and I'm pretty sure Cynthia is not going to either. But I think it comes down between Mikey, Demi, and Fernanda. It's going to be. I don't know. The Oscar voters.
Can you pick one?
I would love Demi to win, but
who do you think will win?
I don't know. I bet that it won't go to Demi because Oscar voters tend to look down on genre films, and even when genre does
so then it's between Mikey and Fernanda.
We'll see. I don't know. know.
You can't pick one.
I think this one's pretty up in the air in those three, in my opinion. I don't know.
Okay. Actress in a supporting role. The nominees are Monica Barbaro. I don't know who that is. Yeah. For Complete Unknown.
Because she's a complete unknown to you. She played Joan Baez.
Ariana Grande for Wicked, Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, and Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez.
I think Saldana is going to take it.
And who would you like to win?
I'd be very happy for her to win.
Oh, good. Okay, we can go on to... how about cinematography? The nominees are The Brutalist, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Maria, and Nosferatu.
Maria, I didn't even realize Maria got a nod for that. Throw that away.
Who do you think will win?
Even though that is a beautiful film, but throw that film away. They might throw Dune a bone. I don't know.
Who would you like to win?
What was the first one again? Brutalist? I'd love Brutalist to win. Yeah.
Okay, Best Director. The nominees are Sean Baker for Nora, Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, James Mangold for A Complete Unknown, Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez, and Coralie Farge for The Substance. Who do you think will win?
Sean Baker. Yeah, Sean all the way.
Who would you like to win?
I'd be very happy with him. But if Coralie won, which that's a long shot, but I'd be ecstatic if she won.
Since I know you've seen these. International feature film. The nominees are I'm Still Here, The Girl with the Needle, Amelia Perez, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, and Flow. Who do you think will win?
I'm thinking that's I'm Still Here is going to clean up.
Oh, and who would you like to win?
I like Seed of the Sacred Fig better than that film.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the big one, Best Picture. There are a lot of movies here.
10 nominees, yeah, since...
Okay, the nominees are Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. Which do you think will win?
Anora.
Which would you like to win?
I'd be fine with Anora.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, well, I don't give a shit about awards shows, but...
Which you've said.
But I do think that the Razzies are interesting. So why don't we go over the winners from the 45th Golden Raspberry Awards, which celebrate the worst in film and usually always occur right before the Academy Awards.
Yes.
Okay. So we can start with Worst Director. The nominees were S.J. Clarkson for Madam Web, Todd Phillips for Joker Folie à Deux, Eli Roth for Borderlands, Jerry Seinfeld for Unfrosted, and Francis Ford Coppola for Megalopolis. Who do you think won?
I know Francis won because he commented.
Oh, he did? What did he say?
I think he said thank you or something.
Well, that's all you can't say.
I mean, I clearly that was not my top worst films of the year, but I don't think he should have won that out of those several there. And even as much as I also hated Joker 2, both those people were trying something, even though they failed miserably. And I think they're terrible, garbage, trash films. But out of those, that the person that directed Madam Web deserves to be escorted out of the union. No more of that. Thank you. She should have won.
Okay, Worst Supporting Actress, Amy Schumer for Unfrosted, Ariana DeBose for Argyle and Craven the Hunter, Leslie Ann Down for Reagan, Emma Roberts for Madam Web, and F.K. Twigs for The Crow. Who do you think won?
I haven't seen that Jerry Seinfeld film or one of those other ones, but who won? I don't know.
Amy Schumer for Unfrosted.
Which as a terrible performance I haven't seen.
Okay, Jack Black. This is Worst Supporting Actor. Jack Black for Borderlands, Kevin Hart for Borderlands, Shia LaBeouf for Megalopolis, Tahar Rahim for Madam Web, and John Voight for Megalopolis, Reagan, Shadowland, and Strangers.
They better have given it to John Voight.
They did.
Okay.
Jack Black. Tahar Rahim. That movie was so weird because I don't know what they did with his voice.
I think that's partly not his fault. But Jack Black was, to me, the most entertaining part of Borderlands, but whatever.
Because he plays the voice of something.
That robot.
Yeah, I mean, that seems a little whatever. Okay, Worst Actress, Dakota Johnson in Madam Web, Cate Blanchett in Borderlands, Lady Gaga for Joker Folie à Deux, Bryce Dallas Howard for Argyle, and Jennifer Lopez for Atlas. Okay, I have seen all of these.
Actually, yes.
Kate I don't think Lady Gaga or Cate Blanchett deserve to be in there.
Yeah, they're I've seen far worse.
They did what they did. Mm-hmm. I think Bryce Dallas Howard was poorly cast.
Yeah.
But I don't think she did a poor job. So, I don't know. Dakota Johnson was so annoying in Madam Web.
Yes.
And Jennifer Lopez did not belong in that movie Atlas. But the winner was Dakota Johnson.
Okay, thank God. Yeah, I mean, girl, you know better.
Thank God. Praise the Lord.
Girl, you know better. You know how to read a script. You know that this is garbage.
Does she know? I don't know.
Well,
she's been in a few bad movies.
She has, but based on her interviews, it's like you seem a lot smarter than the choices you make with making films. But I guess to stay at the top, it's
well. I always say I'll do a lot for some money, so I don't know.
Sure.
Although I assume she doesn't need any.
Well, right. Like, so what do you?
Well, that's the problem with nepotism. Sometimes, like, it makes your poor choices seem even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Worst Actor. The nominees are Jerry Seinfeld in Unfrosted, Jack Black for Dear Santa, Zachary Levi for Harold and the Purple Crayon, Joaquin Phoenix for Joker Folie à Deux, and Dennis Quaid for Reagan. The winner is Jerry Seinfeld.
Jerry Seinfeld, the winner? Wow.
Or I guess loser.
which he went viral a couple weeks ago. I didn't realize that he was so hard pro-Israel.
Oh,
Like, shocking.
well, they have an award, the Razzie Redeemer Award. So I guess this goes for someone who's known to have been bad and then did good. The nominees were Pamela Anderson for The Last Showgirl, Megan Fox for Subservience, and Demi Moore for The Substance. They gave it to Pamela Anderson, but I feel like Demi Moore deserves
Well,
it
she won a
because
lot
they've
more than
nominated her 7 times. So the fact that she's nominated for an Oscar is like a big FU. But anyway, worst remake, ripoff, or sequel. The nominees were Joker Folie à Deux, The Crow, Craven the Hunter, Mufasa the Lion King, and Rebel Moon 2, The Scar Giver. I probably would give, to me, it'd be either The Crow or Craven the Hunter.
I think The Crow, because it's totally shitting on the source material, really.
But they gave it to Joker Folie à Deux. I mean, I will say
I did call that
the fall off from the first to the second one is pretty
it's
immense.
significant. And I did say, I think I wrote that was the worst film of the year in Spin. So
oh well, okay. Worst screen combo. Damn, any two obnoxious characters, but especially Jack Black in Borderlands.
Wow, they really hated him.
They did. Any two unfunny comedic actors in Unfrosted. Damn.
Wow.
The entire cast of Megalopolis. Dennis Quaid and Penelope Ann Miller in Reagan. They played Ronald and Nancy.
I didn't see that for several
I kind of want to
now. I need to, but I already know I'm going to find that to be trash.
And then Joaquin and Lady Gaga and Joker Folie à Deux. They gave it to Lady Gaga and Joaquin.
Somehow I think Dennis Quaid, I do like Penelope Ann Miller. I don't know what she's doing in the Reagan movie directed by what's that, Sean McNamara. Yeah, anyway.
Lastly, worst picture. The nominees were Borderlands, Joker Folie à Deux, Megalopolis, Reagan, and Madam Web. I need to see Reagan now.
Yeah, we need to.
Yeah.
I do know what won.
And it is?
Madam Web.
Yes.
Madam Web.
I mean, that was hard. And I've sat through that movie 3 times.
Wow.
To various lengths, like percentage of completion. But
I hope to never see it again.
I mean, it's painful. It's painful.
Yes.
Okay, well, we spent 12 minutes talking about awards, so that's good. Moving on. So you were in Berlin a while back for the film festival, and you had an interesting experience because someone reached out to you.
Yes, producer, and she's a director in her own right. But, I have been closely, I guess you could say, following the Ulrike Odinger project, The Blood Countess, Die Blutgrafen, which is about Elizabeth Bathory, which people have made films about before, including Julie Delpy in 2010 in a film called The Countess, which I didn't really like. But back in 2010, Delpy's film was 2008. But Ulrike, who's one of the few women from the new German wave, she had announced, I was told this project's been in the making for 30 years, but Tilda Swinton.
30 years?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Tilda Swinton and Isabelle Huppert were going to be part of this project back in 2010. And then nothing came together. And then so finally, very recently, Ulrike has been getting funding for this Luxembourgish co-production, and Isabel, who was going to be the maid, is now the Blood Countess, and Birgit Mirkenmeyer is the maid. Anyway, the producer of this reached out to me randomly and said, oh, thanks for all your support for all these years. And we were chatting, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be in Berlin. I'm assuming you're going to be there. And she said yes, and she invited me for coffee. And then she showed me a bunch of behind the scenes footage that had just been shot the week before in Vienna.
Okay.
Of Isabel as the vampire countess, and it is definitely going to be a weirdo comedy, and I cannot wait. But to me, that was a very special thing.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, a year from now, it'll be at some film festival and people will see it. But it was very meaningful to me that her name's Badi Mink, and she said she had hoped I could have brought my cat to the meeting, but yeah, we had coffee.
Oh, so she's familiar with your videos.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
So it was nice.
Well, shout out, girl.
Yeah.
I'm sure she doesn't give a shit about me, but Okay, moving on. I read a headline that I thought was so interesting and I wanted to bring it up. So the headline was Girl in Hartford, Connecticut who can't read is suing the school district after graduating with honors.
I saw that headline too.
Well, I posted it on
Oh,
Instagram.
that's why I saw it.
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
But so of course I tried to do a deep dive. I watched a video about like with the girl speaking and then read a couple of articles. But this is a very interesting case, and I would love to know what educators who listen to us think because uh so she
So what, you get honors for personality?
no, she got good grades. So English is her second language. Her mother is an immigrant. Spanish is their native language. And the mother, it's very similar to my own mother, like, didn't start speaking English until I started to learn how to read and write. And then, um, of course, from the sounds of this mother, didn't advance as much as my own mother did.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, throughout the years, she spent 12 years in this school district. She had behavior issues, and several of her, like, there's documentation showing that over the years that it was noticed that she had behavior issues, but also, like, they questioned that perhaps she might have a learning disability, that she had issues with certain types of like learning tools. I forget the language. I'm also distracted because the cat is hold on. Okay. Back to what I was talking about. So that the school recognized that she had problems with letter, sound, and number recognition as early as first grade.
Mm-hmm.
But because those issues were never addressed, she began acting out in school. And those are her words. So from her own mouth, you hear her say, like, well, I wasn't getting the attention I needed for my learning disability. So I would act out to try to get attention.
Mm-hmm. Like the cat.
And then the mom says, like, well, like, I didn't speak English very well, so I didn't really know how to advocate, but I knew that there was something wrong. So, I guess my daughter just was able to graduate high school without anyone doing anything. And it wasn't until like her final year that they said that, yes, she does. I think one of the issues was dyslexia, and then they tried to start treating it, but they didn't start until like she's about to graduate. So of course I would, if you're listening, then you think, well, your first question is like, well, how the hell did she graduate with honors? Like if this lady can't read or write. She says that she learned how to use, well, like on Google Translate, you can just take a picture of something and then it will translate the copy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how she reads. That she'll take a picture of like the text.
So this girl was at her desk with the phone taking pictures?
Okay. And then how does she write? So then she had her laptop out and she goes, oh, I just do dictate. So she'll open up the doc and then dictate what she wants to write.
Ah, okay.
So, of course, I have more questions like, so in the classroom, you were able to do that? Or I don't know. They don't get into that. I just find it so curious, though. And my question, and I'm not an educator, I did work for 2 years in the public school system. And the one thing I know is that many parents don't seem to get involved until the school has critiques about the kids,
mm-hmm.
and then the parents are offended.
Yes.
But it's like, well, I don't know. It seems like you aren't doing shit with your child at home. A lot of these kids seem like they don't get any follow-up
mm-hmm.
at all. Like the only time they're presented with anything related to their education is when they're in school. But when they're in school, they're distracted because they're on their phones. And then when you try to ban phones, the parents are up in arms because the parents are concerned about, well, I need to be able to pick them up on time. And it's like, it seems like a lot of parents are more concerned about school as a form of daycare, and anything that affects that schedule is a problem for them. But outside of that, they don't seem to be that involved until your kid graduates and can't read or write, I guess. My issue is like the fact that you can verbalize that I don't know how to read, so I'm using this app to help me read.
They need to go to the Derek Zoolander school for kids who can't read good.
Well, or I guess my question is like, how much ownership do you have in your own education?
Well, right.
Because if I know I can't read, then I guess that same phone I'm using and the fact that I can be online and know how to do all these things, maybe I would Google
you know
how
what,
do I learn how to read?
you know what it is? Somebody said you can get some money for this, so that's what's happening.
I don't want to, shame this family and say
This
that
illiterate family.
they're at fault, but it just seems
they are. There's complicity there, of course. Come on.
it's just very interesting to me that like how like so the school has like I know it's supposed to be like no child left behind, but clearly with this new administration that's going to be an even bigger problem.
I mean,
if they get rid of the Department of Education, maybe. But
maybe if we change the analogy a bit, like the school is a big pool of fresh sparkling water and you are dehydrated and it is right there next to you and you are suing the school for not putting the water in your mouth, even though that you were free to go drink the water.
I mean, the schools, but we do know that certain school districts, like, I mean, it's a fact that some districts where the school, like schools that have like more minority students get less money than schools that are,
there is a,
and then based on the median income of certain neighborhoods, like we know that there's not parity in all of this.
Well, and then teachers don't, they don't really have any leverage so yeah, a lot of kids get passed along that really don't.
And these teachers don't have the tools, the resources. They're not getting paid enough. They're not respected. A lot of these teachers, the minute they try to like go above and beyond, it's like they get attacked.
Mm-hmm. So does it make sense to punish the school system?
Because parents think that their parenting skills are being questioned, or
well, then fine, have dumb kids then.
Then teach your kids at home. Oh, you can't because you also don't know how to read and write well and can't do basic arithmetic.
Wait, you're ignorant too?
So it's like, well, then why don't you trust the people who do know how to do this to guide you? So I think that it's all messed up. But I'm not trying to, all I'm doing is presenting this because I think it's so interesting and I would love to know, like, if anyone's familiar with this particular situation. It just feels so odd to hear someone say, no one's teaching me how to read and write for all these years. It's like, well, you've been like, so for how many years are you just going to like not learn how to read and write? Like, you can't read and write, but you found all these other tools to. It's kind of like,
yet you know how to feed yourself, so you know how to say when you're hungry, right?
Like, well, illiteracy is a real thing, and people
of course it is, but like,
people are in situations.
She can speak.
Well, I'm not saying what you're saying. I'm saying that I think that it's interesting to hear someone verbalize, but then also have the tools to work around it. So it's like, why don't you combine those two skills or those two understandings and then solve the problem?
What rubs me the extreme wrong way about this is that there's money trying to be procured from this for something that they have a major part to play in themselves.
Well, no
accountability.
Well, the other thing is that the family's not just suing the school district, they're suing the special ed case manager for the student, and then they're alleging that case manager was bullying, harassing, and stalking the student.
Of course they're alleging that now.
So
of course they are. Why wouldn't you?
I don't know.
After having just been on a jury, of course, everything suddenly becomes like.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that that's not true. Maybe this person was acting inappropriately, and so that part of the whole situation is different. But still, if I know I can't read or write, but I'm performing well enough that I get good grades, seems like you should be able to solve that problem on your own then. Like, if you know this school is not doing shit for you.
Well, she's not alone. I mean, the average American reading level is.
She also got a scholarship to go to the state university, like state college. So, for someone who can't read or write, it seems like she's doing all right. And then
something is not adding up.
Well, yeah, it just sounds so weird. And then she says her dream is to become a writer.
Girl. Well, she can, and somebody else can translate your work. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, she's currently attending the University of Connecticut, so good luck.
Sure. Well, so she speaks Spanish well, then she'll be fine. Come on.
All right. Moving on to 5 on the Black Hand side. 5 filmmakers who are not Tyler Perry. Who's up first?
Eric. Gotta make it. Do you remember St. Elsewhere?
Yes.
Do you remember Eric Lanueville?
Okay, I have to look him up. Let's see.
Oh, he's a major part of that. I remember my mother watching that. Not the black man that's not Denzel. Oops. But I don't remember his character name from that. But he has quite a significant filmography as a director.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mostly in directing episodes of television series, but he had a couple major television films that he directed in the 80s and early 90s, one of them being the George McKenna story starring Denzel, which is also known as Hard Lessons. And then he also did the Ernest Green story starring Morris Chestnut in the early 90s, in which Mr. Chestnut plays one of the first students that is sent to integrate school as a student.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with
him as a director, but you know his face.
Director. Yes.
Yes. And he was in The Omega Man with Charlton Heston, I believe. Mm-hmm.
Okay, next, this person I do know very well.
Actually, I forgot to ask. I can't believe that I haven't put him on one of these lists yet, but Robert Townsend.
Yes.
Which we might run into repeats here. I don't know. Are you keeping anyway? Well, you know, you like him for one of your favorite films of all time.
Jackie's Back.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And
Holiday Heart.
There you go. Yep. But he had, many major films in his filmography, including The Five Heartbeats. One of my special favorites is Hollywood Shuffle, which is now in the Criterion Collection. And one that I've been meaning to watch, that we watched Blank Man recently with Damon Wayans. And it reminded me when we did watch that I've never seen Townsend's kind of maybe comparable version of something similar, The Meteor Man.
Oh, I thought
I've never seen that, but I would love to.
Next,
Darnell Martin. She directed a film called I Like It Like That, which I've never seen, with John Cena. I know he's in the cast, but we both are very familiar with her 2008 film Cadillac Records,
with good old fiance Knowles
playing Etta
Carter.
James. I really liked Beyonce in that.
I think that's probably her best acting we've seen. Yeah,
and Jeffrey Wright as what's his name, Muddy Waters, and then Adrian Brody. But yeah, I haven't watched that since it came out, but I remember liking that film.
Who's next?
Tanya Hamilton, who's also worked a lot in television. I think she only has one feature to her name, but I saw it back in 2010, and it's worth watching. Anthony Mackie plays a Black Panther who I don't remember the mechanics of the plot, but has to come back into something to do with family. Kerry Washington's in it, and it's called Night Catches Us.
Last but certainly not least,
Debbie Allen, who
of course I'm very familiar with.
Of course, Felicia Rashad's sister. She directed her sister in a television film called The Old Settler, which I've never seen. Sounds great. I think I first became aware that Debbie Allen was also a director when I bought you a bootleg copy of Life is Not a Fairy Tale, the Fantasia Barrino story, in which Fantasia plays herself.
But Debbie Allen directs a lot of TV. I mean, she's directed many episodes of is it what's the Shonda Rhimes?
How to Get Away with Murder?
No.
Scandal?
No.
Bridgerton?
Well, maybe Scandal, but that's not what I'm talking about. It's what's the medical one?
Grey's Anatomy?
Yes.
the OG Shonda. I've never watched that, but anyway, Debbie Allen, and I didn't realize she did this in preparing this list for you today, but I would love to. She did a mid-90s film with LL Cool J she directed called Out of Sync.
Oh.
Which sounds great. She's done many music videos, including for Melba Moore, and her very first directorial credit is for the Janet Jackson music video for Dream Street.
Yeah, because she was a big part of Fame.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she was. Mm-hmm.
She also directed a bunch of episodes of A Different World. And then also, whenever I think of her lately, she did a song with her sister Felicia back in the late 80s that was produced by Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
Is that the one where they're walking around on the street?
Yes, and I forget.
It's pretty. They look pretty fantastic. It's fierce.
Oh, it's called More Than a Man. And it sounds like it could be a song Janet Jackson would have done for like the Control album.
Mm-hmm. But they are walking around like they are these beautiful creatures that came to this place, and they are strutting around. It is pretty fantastic.
It's a fun video to watch. But yeah, Debbie Allen she's iconic for sure.
She is. So I wanted to feature her in this, even though, she's not she's multifaceted, of course, but I don't know that.
The complex yet multifaceted talents.
Well, yeah, I don't think of director, but she has a very lengthy filmography as a director as well.
Okay, moving on to the restaurant section. That Ara shawarma that we mentioned before with the Dubai chocolates, we went back to get their non-dessert food.
Mhm.
And I have to say, it's a good thing that you were the one who picked up the chocolate, because had I been into that restaurant, I would not have gone back.
Okay. Well, it was late at night when we went first, and there was no one in there. And the staff member, that employee, was this young homosexual who was very friendly and explained to me the step-by-step process of the strawberry chocolate, which I didn't need, but I felt like he needed to tell me.
Well, this time I also ordered my food ahead of time. And just like how when you went in there, they didn't even start the shit until you walked in at the time when the food was supposed to be ready.
That's true, yes.
So I ordered the food, then it says it'll be ready in 25 minutes. So I walk in 25 minutes and there's a line. And when I tell you that line was filled with crackheads, and I mean, it's on.
Well, it is in Hollywood.
It's on Sunset in Hollywood. And it was just scary. There was a lady in there with a dog acting crazy, some other lady who looked like she belonged on intervention. Then there were like a bunch of ladies in there with these newborns strapped to them, obsessed with those, because we already mentioned those strawberry Belgian chocolate, whatever, they're expensive.
Yes.
They're over $20. So they're like complaining about the price, but they gotta have it.
She's got to have it, Spike Lee.
So I finally wait. So now it's been like 35 minutes since I ordered my food. I show the kid the thing. And he's like, oh, they're working on it. Are they? How you know? Because it's 10 minutes past when it's supposed to be done. So I'm waiting. And then finally this man walks by and goes, oh, are you waiting? What's your name? Okay. And then he grabs a ticket and starts. We got the food. I did enjoy the food, but I don't know that I would.
Yeah, I don't think I need that again.
I don't think I would go back. And then last night you ordered some Thai food from the place called
Isan Station.
And I have to say that the three things you ordered, one of them was like those flat egg noodle type things with chicken that I thought was very tasty.
Pad See Ew. Yeah, I would get that again there though.
Then you ordered some like beef salad that tasted like someone just made a basic like side salad with tomatoes, poured an entire bottle of Italian dressing, and then that meat was like
the tenderloin.
If you told me that was not beef, chicken, or pork, I'd believe you.
It was tough.
That could have been horse meat. I don't know. But the pad thai was the strangest pad thai I've ever had. For anyone who knows what fideo soup is, it's like a Mexican soup that's like tomato based, and it has like those tiny, like angel haired noodles. My mom makes it a lot for my sister. It tasted exactly like that to me, except if you put pad thai flavored chicken in there. So the chicken was very tasty, and it tasted like chicken you'd find in pad thai, but then put it on like fideo soup noodles. It was very, very weird.
It was it didn't, because I didn't even I had ordered it
because you confused it for pad thai. Like you didn't realize.
I didn't realize it was the pad thai, but yeah. But I liked it well enough. But yeah, it didn't taste like what I thought. But
and they messed up your order. Did you get on DoorDash and ask for a refund? Yes. Oh, good. I would order from there again, and I would get those 2 items minus the horse meat.
And it's right by that boba time in that plaza.
Oh,
that we've been to.
Like
that's why I said I could have walked and it would have been.
Oh yeah.
Because it took me longer to drive down Western. But I was inspired because of watching the new season of White Lotus. I'm like, I want some Thai food.
God.
What?
Watching Parker Posey ordered.
I was like, that
sounds kind of good.
I'm on that plane of existence with her. Yeah.
Films released we didn't cover: Last Breath.
This was directed by Alex Parkinson, and I believe he already co-directed a documentary about the same thing, about seasoned deep sea divers as they battle raging elements.
It looked interesting.
I mean, and I like Woody Harrelson, and Simu Liu is also in it, but we did not see it. Oh, and Cliff Curtis, pretty good cast of people.
Projects of Interest, Burnt Piano.
So another week, another Isabelle Huppert film. She's going to work with the Australian auteur Fred Scapisi. I think I'm saying his last name right. God, what is he best known for? That Meryl Streep movie, Cry in the Dark, the Dingo Got Your Baby movie. What's that lady's name?
Oh,
the lady that went to jail for her killing her baby because she said a dingo got it.
Okay.
Meryl Streep played her.
Yeah. Somebody
did her on Snatch Game and Drag Race Australia.
Oh gosh, I totally forgot about that. I damn sure know her name.
What's her name? Lindy. Anyway, that reminds me, I would love to rewatch that Meryl Streep film with Sam Neill. Anyway, he hasn't done anything in a minute. He did a Charlotte Rampling film a few years ago called Eye of the Storm, which also has Judy Davis. Anyway, Isabel, it's about somebody looking for, God, my brain today. What's his name that wrote Waiting for Godot?
Okay.
Why am I blanking on that? Abby Cornish, Ray Winstone, and somebody else. Oh, Jeffrey Rush, of course, who's Australian. Samuel Beckett. It's about somebody looking for Samuel Beckett. That's all I know. But it's called Burnt Piano, and Isabel's going to be in it. So I will be consuming that as soon as it's available to me.
Next, The Soap Maker.
Claire Denis, who I love. I think she's, if not filming, about to film another project that we talked about probably several months ago, but she has said that she is going to remake this 1977 film called Gran Bolito, which I love, starring Shelley Winters as this Italian serial killer. Oh. And what this woman would do is she'd kill these people and then she'd make soap out of their bodies.
That's productive.
And then she got hemmed up because I think somebody found some remains in the soap eventually. But
there is a tooth in my soap.
I was like a finger with a ring on it. Anyway, Gran Bolito, Shelley Winters, 1977 is so much fun. If you haven't seen it, love it. So Claire Denis has talked for years about working with Isabel again. So to me, that seems like Isabel would be a pretty good fit for that role. In my mind.
Manifesting.
Yeah.
Lastly, a new Charlie Kaufman project.
Charlie Kaufman, who we reviewed his last film, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which is crazy. That was 5 years ago. And what a different place we were in then. And Anomalisa, I remember making you watch. But he had published a book recently, but he's working on a project called Later the War. I don't know what it's about. But also as part of this note, I have Richard Kelly, for the first time since 2009's The Box, is listed as going into production on some feature, untitled, no details about it, this fall, which is very exciting to me.
All right. This past week on Patreon, we reviewed the film Tri, also known as Dry, by Tom Tykwer.
You were giving it the...
I was giving the old Count Chocula treatment about a male, female throuple of sorts.
1, 2, 3.
And we're continuing to review season 17 of RuPaul's Drag Race. So give us some money.
And season 3, well, that's not on Patreon.
No. Okay. Unfortunately, there are many entries in the obituaries section. This is wild.
Yeah.
Okay. First off, Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
The great American actor died at the age of 95 under very curious circumstances.
Yeah.
He was found by a maintenance worker dead in his home in New Mexico, along with his wife and a dog.
And a couple other dogs running around, right?
So the dog that died was in a kennel. So I've watched a few things like that Law and Crime channel talking about it, and they had, actually, there was a lady on Law and Crime who is a medical doctor and a detective. And listening to her talk was really, like, I would love for her to have a show. But from what they know now, based on the decomposition of the bodies, it seems like they died maybe like 10 days ago. Also, Gene Hackman had a pacemaker, and the pacemaker shows that his heart stopped about 10 days prior to him being found. So, but it's curious that he and his wife, who's like 30 years younger.
Yeah, she was like 64.
Their levels of decomposition are similar. So it would seem that they died at the same time, but then preliminarily they're saying there was no like carbon monoxide was not a thing, or no foul play, no break-in, no theft. So maybe it's just a coincidence that they both dropped dead at the same time.
That seems weird.
But, I don't think that his curious death will overshadow his career, which is pretty incredible.
Very incredibly significant, yes.
He's won 2 Academy Awards.
Yeah.
I know. So we reviewed The French Connection.
Mm-hmm. The Conversation, and Unforgiven. Yes, so you've seen his 2 Oscar-winning roles, yeah. The classic.
Of course, I know him from The Birdcage. A film we're going to be talking about on Patreon, and another film we're going to be talking about in this podcast. But yeah, I'm very familiar with Gene Hackman. Of course, him playing that old smoky ass talking cigarette in Heartbreakers is iconic
It
to me.
is, yes. William B. Tenzie, yeah.
What's your favorite role of his?
Oh, he has, I don't know, he has so many good roles, but I mean, Heartbreakers is go-to for me, but I think he's very underrated as a comedian because what he's doing as a straight man in the Birdcage, I think is fantastic. I love him as Popeye Doyle. The Poseidon Adventure is a favorite. I know I made you watch that years and years ago, but he's the lead in that, and I love that movie so much.
I forgot he was Lex Luthor in the 3 Superman films.
Yes, he certainly was, because people used to call me that. I'm like, do I look like Gene Hackman? The Woody Allen movie he did with Jenna Rollins, Another Woman, which I had wanted to cover around the time she died, which we haven't yet. One day, I think is also really good. Night Moves, an Arthur Penn film. I really like Zandy's Bride with Liv Ullmann, which is kind of a B-side for him, directed by Jan Troll, which if you haven't seen that. I love Prime Cut with Lee Marvin and Sissy Spacek. It's directed by Michael Ritchie. He plays a villain in that. There are so many films of his that I still haven't seen. I think his first Oscar nomination was for I Never Sang for My Father, which I've yet to watch. The Scarecrow, it's a Jerry Schatzberg film. The Conversation is great. He did a film with Catherine Deneuve. I almost put on this morning, but I was called March or Die. Hoosiers I've never seen. No Way Out, which is a remake of The Big Clock, I think is great. I remember my dad really liking Bat 21. Been meaning to rewatch that.
Are we running through his filmography? What are we doing?
The Firm, Mississippi Burning.
Yeah, an iconic actor.
Yeah,
he lived a very long life.
The David Mamet film Heist. Yeah, I don't know. It's he hasn't worked in 20 years, so it's not like
I'm assuming he was very comfortable.
Yes.
In the final stage of his life. He was 95, so I'm sure he was ready to be put to rest.
I think Alexander Payne tried to get him to coax him out of retirement for Nebraska back in 2013, but he wouldn't. So that's why Bruce Dern got that role.
Moving on, Angie Stone died.
That's right. Crazy. I keep forgetting that happened. Yeah.
She died in a vehicle crash. She was leaving a show, I believe, in Alabama, headed back to Georgia. And she was in one of those Sprinter vans, and the van flipped, and then a semi-truck hit it. And everyone survived except her. It's kind of crazy. And what's even more crazy, I mean, I'm very familiar with who Angie Stone is. In fact, I recently added a remix of her Wish I Didn't Miss You, which I think is her most popular song, to my gym mix. So I had been listening to that for a while. But like a month ago, I went on this kick of watching all these interviews with her because unfortunately she had an incident with her daughter where the daughter called the police on her for domestic violence. So she had posted a series of videos, and then she had some serious health issues that she was talking about. And so I had recently, like in the past month, been like watching a lot of stuff about her. And then of course, YouTube was recommending more things.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know her as an actor.
Well, we know her. I always think of her from The Hot Chick,
playing the like the mystic
in the mall,
where
Adam Sandler also works.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then we know her also from R&B Divas Atlanta.
That's right.
She was on Celebrity Fit Club. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Well, she wasn't that old.
And she wasn't old.
Mm-hmm.
But I did want to say, because Tyler Perry loves to, I mean, he knows any Black celebrity who's been alive in the last 20 years, of course, he's met them.
Mm-hmm.
And so he posted something on IG about her. He posted a picture with her at the premiere of A Jazzman's Blues. And the caption reads, "When I write a movie, I usually choose an artist to listen to that helps me see the world I'm creating. I've always loved Angie and her music, and there's one song in particular that I couldn't get out of my head while writing Straw." And then he goes on, the song's called $20. But I just thought, don't put your shitty writing on Angie.
Yeah, don't blame that on me. I don't want to be part of that formula. I had no say.
At this time, when we're mourning her, don't.
No.
But, I mean, the sentiment is there, but I just think it's funny, like, oh, so you have a song for every shitty movie you've written. So when each one of those artists dies, you're going to...
Mm,
But yeah, that's pretty sad. Okay, next, Roberta Flack.
yeah, that's a bummer too. I think I keep blocking out that happened because
She was 88.
which is up there. Yeah,
Her, I, I think her most popular song is "Killing Me Softly" with his song,
most definitely.
which
Yes.
of course the Fugees redid back in like the mid to late
It was like
90s.
94. When was that?
But when I think of her, I think of the first time I heard the first time ever I saw your face. And I remember thinking, and I was probably like 18.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember where I was. I was in Las Vegas and I was in an apartment complex. And I heard it and thought, this is the most beautiful song I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think it's the most beautiful song. And every now and then I will play it. Celine Dion also has a version of this song that I also think is very beautiful.
Yes, but it's not Roberta.
No, it's not. But
I really love, and I still listen to this quite often. She does a cover of Leonard Cohen's "Hey, That's No Way to Say Goodbye," which is also like beautiful and sad, and all the things that you want to feel when you're listening to it. There's a movie, I think it's called The 10, like 2007. I forget like Paul Rudd's in it. Uh, and it's a kind of like a omnibus film about 10 stories inspired by the 10 commandments, but there's a group of these men that are hetero, but they get together like secretly to listen to Roberta Flack songs.
oh,
And
interesting.
I feel like they say like, oh, we're about to have a Flack attack.
Well, goodbye to Roberta Flack.
Yeah.
Okay, then Michelle Trachtenberg died at the age of 39. I know
Yeah.
she had some health issues, like she had a liver transplant.
Oof, yeah.
So I'm sure that was hard on her body. I know I
I never watched Buffy.
I'm sorry to say I don't know who this person is, but I know that she meant a lot to people because we got a lot of messages about her.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with her?
Yeah, because my go-to in my mind is that she's in my favorite Greg Araki film, Mysterious Skin.
You told me that, and all I remember is Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
She's his little girlfriend that he moves into the New York apartment with.
I remember him moving to New York.
Mm-hmm. And I remember she did a movie called Ice Princess.
And I remember
with Joan
him
Cusack.
giving a massage to a man who had like lesions on his back.
That's Billy Drago, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then as a kid, I knew her also as Harriet the Spy in the late 90s.
Oh, okay.
But she was a child actor that was quite popular for quite a while. But and I think I probably did see her in 6 Feet Under.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that she had health issues and she was young. She was under 40.
Yeah.
So I hope she didn't suffer too much.
But yeah, I would, speaking of things you don't expect to hear, like, okay.
Goodbye to Michelle Trachtenberg. Then David Johansen died, who's better known as
Buster Poindexter,
who is a musician, but also he was in film as that character, right?
Yeah, I think that he was probably in film. He's probably best known as the taxi cab driver in Scrooged. But very recently, was it Scorsese? Somebody did a documentary about him that I watched. God, what was that called again? But and he was talking because the song that really made him popular was that what's that song? I like it hot, hot, hot.
That's him.
That's him, and he hates that song because he felt it plagued him. And I didn't realize. I thought that whoever was singing that was definitely not a white person. But that's him, and they played it at theme parks everywhere. But yeah, Buster Poindexter.
He was 75.
My first memory of him though was he performed "Baby It's Cold Outside" on SNL in 1986 alongside Sigourney Weaver.
Well, goodbye to David Johansen.
Yeah.
Lastly, celebrity hairstylist Jesus Guerrero died, and he was quite young. And I was trying to read, but I guess like it's all kind of mysterious. He was in Dubai. He's on tour with Jennifer Lopez doing her hair, and she did a performance there. But then like she left, he was still there. He got sick. He was in a hospital there, then transferred back to the US and then died. But the thing I wanted to mention is that his family, the day that they posted that he had died, they also put up a GoFundMe. And then shortly thereafter, Kylie. So he did like he was Kylie Jenner, billionaire Kylie Jenner's hairstylist. Jennifer Lopez, Katy Perry, Dua Lipa, like the way he presents on Instagram and the fact that all these celebrities posted these very heartfelt messages about him, he was a very successful hairstylist and young. And, it's not about people asking when they need, but so the sister posts that he died. Yes, he died in Dubai. It's all mysterious, but we need help with burial costs. So here's the GoFundMe. And then shortly thereafter, Kylie Jenner posts or says that she's taking care of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then the family still kept up the GoFundMe saying that they needed it to bring back his belongings from Dubai. I feel a way about this, and I've complained about GoFundMes before because it just seems like, okay, if I die today, don't you put up a GoFundMe for me, because you can afford to bury me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't want people thinking that I live my life in a way where we couldn't afford to bury me.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not how I present myself.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
But
people lie.
So I just wonder sometimes when y'all want to quickly set up a this and that, it's like, is that honoring your, like, I don't know, my integrity. I like money and people can give us money and I'll accept it.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'll be fine without it.
But also it's like, I'm not begging for money and I'm not asking for money under the pretense that I need it.
Right.
I just want it. So I just think it's like this young man had a successful career as a celebrity hairstylist. You have these A-list people who are coming out saying how sad they are. That, like, one of his employers, this billionaire young woman, is paying for everything. I just think it's kind of in poor taste. And it just seems like the trend that immediately the first thing everyone does is like, GoFundMe.
Well, right.
Why?
Well,
also, I've said time and time again that you can dump my body in the ocean, let the sharks eat me. So I certainly don't need $100,000 funeral.
Well, I think that's illegal. But
So cremation is a few thousand. Certainly you can pay for my cremation.
Yes.
So like I would be.
But squeaky wheel gets the grease, and
I'm just saying this, like looking at this young man's Instagram, like he presented this sort of glamorous life doing these fabulous things. I wonder how he would feel knowing that his family is asking for, like, it just doesn't seem like that's the energy he gave off. And that's how I would feel about myself. Like I didn't give off the energy that like we couldn't afford to bury me.
I like that you're getting mad about this, like the way that I was kind of rankled at this honor student that's suing for can't reading, for not being able to read.
Oh, look at you!
But I think it's the same side of, I think, the same coin, really, from a different angle.
I don't disagree with you. I just want to be careful to say that I think illiteracy is an issue and people can go under the radar. And I'm not blaming her and her family 100%. But I do agree with you that it does seem like there's a point when it's like,
again, I think it's about presentation. And when I think we both get bothered when it's like, clearly you're trying to gouge or milk the system in a way that there are steps that could have been taken to avoid that.
Well, for that young lady, it's like, well, you were obviously successful enough to graduate with honors, get a scholarship to go to a university. It seems like you're probably doing better than most. I wonder if in the long run, this pursuit of some sort of damages might hurt her, because it's just going to highlight the fact that, like, do you want to be known as a girl who can't read and write? Like, that's going to be your claim to fame when someone Googles your name to do what? To get a...
Well, if you get enough money, you can change your name and go somewhere else. I don't know.
But the same thing, like this young man's legacy, I mean...
is besmirched
by your family asking for some dollars after his billionaire friend boss paid for everything. Like I just don't know that he would have wanted that. And I think sometimes people don't think about that. Like, maybe your loved one wouldn't have wanted to seem like financially destitute.
Mm-hmm.
I know I don't. Now, if I die and all of a sudden you fall on hard times and you're going to lose everything, then that's a different story. But like, if it's just burying me, and especially when people are burying people who are, burying a 20-something, of course, he probably wasn't prepared. Like, he didn't have a burial site and didn't prepay. But sometimes y'all be asking for money for like 93-year-old grandma. That lady,
you guys didn't.
Y'all should have been thinking about her death for at least 10 years now.
Right.
it just seems odd that at 93, this is not a sudden death. Like, it's not sudden. But okay, that I don't want to take away from this young man's tragic.
Well, his family already did, according to you. So
But family already did.
You're trying to put it back in his court. Come on.
Yeah. So goodbye to Jesus Guerrero. I know I'm gonna get nasty comments. Anyway,
Whatever.
Okay. The secret film this week was your choice.
It was, and it was not what I was going to pick, but Gene Hackman died, so I had to delay the other film I've been waiting to watch. But
you were trying to do something in honor of Black History Month, even though it's not Black History Month.
It was still. We don't have to only talk about black shit during February, okay?
Well, we don't. That's why we have 5 on the Black hand side.
That's true, but
we celebrate people of color on a daily basis.
We do.
So it's okay to not do a black film not in Black History Month. Okay. Like, it doesn't even make sense.
But in my mind, I was like, I've been wanting to watch this film for so long. It's been sitting in a little pile underneath the DVD player. Anyway, it's fine.
A little pile?
It's in one of the piles.
In one of the many piles.
Stacks. Piles. Pile sounds like something in my intestines. Stacks.
Or, old people used to call hemorrhoids piles.
See, there you go.
Actually.
That's where I get that.
Anyway, Nick chose the 2001 American comedy drama film, The Royal Tenenbaums, directed by Wes Anderson.
And this fool,
I thought,
as soon as it ends, you're like, oh, it's not Paul Thomas Anderson? No.
Listen, I was about to go on a full rant about how people call Paul Thomas Anderson PTA, and I do not like that. I don't want to. Do you want to be called NJB?
No. No, I don't.
So I wonder if Paul Thomas Anderson likes being called PTA.
Well,
and the way people say it is like they're friends with him.
Well, it's just like all these like J-Lo or K.
Although I do be calling celebrities by their first name, like we're friends.
That's not disrespect, but it's not like they're gonna ever hear
We're friends in my head, since I don't have friends in real life. But
just like I was calling Francis Ford Coppola Francis earlier,
right? But I fully thought that this movie was by Paul Thomas Anderson.
No.
And then when it ended and I saw the end credits saying written and directed by Wes Anderson.
And Owen Wilson co-directed this.
I was shocked.
Co-wrote, yeah. So Wes Anderson is not, he's fallen out of favor in my mind from what I felt as a teenager watching Wes Anderson. We reviewed Asteroid City, which I said was one of the worst films of the year. I hated it. And I find he's gone off the twee deep end, and I think that anyway, we'll get into it. But I don't love Wes Anderson. But this and Moonrise Kingdom are my favorite films by him, and I haven't seen this one since 2001.
Why did you choose the Royal Tenenbaums in relation to Gene Hackman?
Because I think
not Heartbreakers
we just rewatched Heartbreakers and Birdcage in November.
We don't have reviews for either of those.
No, but I needed a little more time. Plus, he has such a vast filmography. I haven't seen this in forever, and neither of you.
I've never seen this film.
No, and I wanted you to.
I still haven't. No, I'm just kidding.
I think this is one of his last great roles. I think if you haven't seen Heartbreakers, he's equally good in that. That same year as this, and I believe the David Mamet film Heist. I think he was gearing up to retire around then. So we had this flood of films from him in the early 2000s that ended with a terrible film, Welcome to Mooseport, opposite Ray Romano. That's his last credit.
Gene Hackman.
Yes.
Okay, what is the Royal Tenenbaums about? The eccentric members of a dysfunctional family reluctantly gather under the same roof for various reasons. There's a lot going on, so trying to tell the story, I'm just going to do it like this. Mm-hmm. So Royal Tenenbaum is Gene Hackman.
And Tannenbaum means Christmas tree, remember?
That's right. Okay, so I'll tell it from his perspective. So 22 years prior to when the story takes place, we see that he's married to Angelica Houston and has 3 kids, 2 boys and a daughter. The daughter's adopted. His 3 children are all kind of like they had achieved a lot when they were young, because the one is like a business genius. The other is a tennis prodigy, and then the daughter receives like some big scholarship for her writing. So they've all done a lot. But then we also see 22 years prior that Gene Hackman sits down his family and says, "Your mom and I are separating." So then we flash forward 22 years, and we see that Gene Hackman has had nothing to do with his family. He lives in this hotel like full time. He used to be a successful lawyer, but then his son, the one who's the business minded one, who now is an adult, is played by Ben Stiller, basically like sued his father and won. So his father was disbarred. But Gene Hackman lives in this hotel with his like long term like valet named Pagoda.
Well, initially Pagoda's still in the house because he's spying.
Oh, that's right.
Mhm.
Pagoda's still with the family,
Yeah.
but he's still like, yeah. Okay. But Gene Hackman gets kicked out of the hotel because he can't pay.
Mm-hmm.
He also finds out via Pagoda, because Pagoda still lives in the house, but still talks to Gene Hackman, that Angelica Houston has been proposed to by her man / accountant,
Mm-hmm.
played by Danny Glover. So Gene Hackman is upset. Like this, because he's not officially divorced from Angelica Houston. They've
Right.
just been separated for decades. So Gene Hackman comes up with this cockamamie plan to pretend he has stomach cancer to get back in the good graces of his family.
Mm-hmm.
So he sets up this whole fake thing, hires some person to be a doctor.
Seymour Cassell, who's a doorman at the hotel that he was staying at.
So he goes and like bum rushes Angelica and says, "I'm dying." So he gets to move back into the house, which also coincides with him being kicked out of the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So he moves back into the house, has like a whole hospital room set up. And then the 3 children also coincidentally like sort of in a position where they move back into the house. So Ben Stiller has 2 young kids, and the mother has recently died in a freak plane crash.
Yes.
And he's become like obsessed with like he's just paranoid. So he wants to protect the kids and wants to move back home with his mom. So now he's back in the house with Gene Hackman. Gwyneth Paltrow plays the adult adopted daughter.
Margot.
And she is depressed because she's in an unhappy marriage to Bill Murray.
Mm-hmm.
And then when her mom goes to visit her to say, "Hey, your dad moved back in because he has stomach cancer," Gwyneth Paltrow is like, "Great, I'll move back in too." And then the other son, the tennis prodigy who became a famous tennis player, he had an incident where he like had a really bad match.
He had a meltdown.
He had a meltdown, which we'll get to, but that kind of ruined his career. So now he's been traveling on this cruise ship. But when he hears about his dad and his sister moving back in, he wants to move back in. So now everyone's under one roof. Gene Hackman's acting a fool because he doesn't want Angelica to be with Danny Glover. But Gene Hackman gets found out by Danny Glover. So he gets kicked out. Then we have a side character, Owen Wilson,
Mm-hmm.
playing like this guy who was a family friend since forever,
Mm-hmm.
who's having an affair with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Mm-hmm.
And Luke Wilson, we find out, is in love with Gwyneth Paltrow, his sister, and she's in love with him. And Luke Wilson had hired an investigator to spy on her and finds out that she's been having an affair with his best friend, Owen Wilson.
Well, also Bill Murray, her husband, Raleigh St. Clair, has also hired the private investigator. Like he's working with Luke Wilson.
And so they not only do they find out that she's having an affair with Owen Wilson, but that she's like promiscuous. She had been married to this Jamaican man at one point. Like she's not this innocent girl that they hoped and thought she was.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, Luke Wilson attempts suicide. So that brings Gene Hackman back into the fold.
Mm-hmm.
And then he decides to act right. He gives his blessing to Angelica Houston by finally signing the divorce papers and telling Danny Glover, "I can see why she wants to marry you because you're everything I wasn't." So now Angelica and Danny Glover are about to get married when Owen Wilson's crazy ass shows up high off something, crashes his car into the building,
Kills the dog Buckley.
kills the dog, the family dog. But that doesn't really stop the wedding proceedings, which was not his intention in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So they end up getting married, and it seems like all's well that ends well. Everyone's sort of like Gwyneth Paltrow and her brother get to be happy together, and Richie's doing better. Angelica's happy with her husband. Gene Hackman's back with the family. When all of a sudden, Gene Hackman has a heart attack and dies.
Mm-hmm.
And the final scene of the movie is them at his burial site. And we see on his tombstone that he wrote, "Died tragically rescuing his family from the wreckage of a destroyed sinking battleship. Okay. I think the best part of the movie is Gene Hackman.
Who won a Golden Globe. No Oscar nod, but got a Golden Globe for that.
I really, really like the story.
Mm-hmm. Same.
That being said, I do think it feels bloated. I do not think we needed Bill Murray or Owen Wilson, which we can get to.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I do think this is a very good movie.
It is, and I think there's a darkness to it, a melancholy that I don't think, and maybe that's Owen Wilson's contribution, because I don't know if you remember after Darjeeling Limited in 2007, I think right before that came out, I think there was his own highly publicized suicide attempt. So I don't know if that is kind of how that element wound up in here, because as Wes Anderson has progressed, I see that he just everything is like overstuffed curio piece with characters that are defined purely by certain details that I think are whimsical and twee. And you see that happening here, but I think there are things in the film, including Gene Hackman, that actively work against it.
Yeah, so for the first like hour, I thought, oh, this feels kind of like silly, cutesy. It's an odd bird that I wasn't totally not liking, but things get real after we start to learn that like these two siblings, albeit one adopted, are in love.
V.C. Andrews,
right,
Woody Allen shit.
Then there's a suicide attempt, and then it's clear that like Gene Hackman's character has these sort of requited feelings about his family and marriage. Then it starts to feel much more adult.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think because let's just talk about it. So Owen Wilson's character, I just feel like he's tacked on.
Yeah.
He's the old family friend who's in love with Margot, Gwyneth Paltrow. And then his character is like an English professor who's had quite a bit of success with his own literary ventures, but then that success kind of goes up and down.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't need any of that. And then Bill Murray as Gwyneth Paltrow's husband, we understand that she's depressed because she's not happy with her life. And she spends 6 hours a day locked in the bathroom, taking baths and secretly smoking cigarettes, which I thought was so dumb, because for all you people who smoke cigarettes, we all know, we can all tell, like, you're not hiding it.
Mm-hmm.
But Bill Murray's character is a neurologist. And then we see that he is treating this boy
named Dudley,
and then this boy follows him around everywhere.
Yeah, it's too cutesy.
It's just kind of, I was more uncomfortable than thinking it was cutesy. Well, and then ultimately in the end, we see that Bill Murray is on a book tour because he wrote this book about the boy who he is diagnosed with. The boy's name is Dudley Heinsbergen, and Bill Murray has diagnosed him with this new disorder called Heisenbergen syndrome.
And see, that's like a detail like that where almost all of Wes Anderson's latest stuff is filled with, like, I think kind of dumb, corny shit. I think
it's dumb, corny, and unnecessary. So those two characters I didn't need. I really wish that it would have focused more on, because what I love about the story is this man, Gene Hackman, who sort of gave up his life to then, because it's like these choices we make, right? Like when you choose to get a divorce and, separate from your family, let's say, and then if you were able to look into a crystal ball to see the future, and it's like, well, was it worth it? For Gene Hackman's character, no. His life turned into like this dead vault, and then he ended up missing his family,
which is sad because he's also kind of an irascible, funny personality. Right. Like I don't think you realize you're also depriving people of kind of the best of you when you do that too.
Right. And then we see that him sort of ingratiating himself back into his family is what helps them all heal to a degree. So he does serve some purpose, which is what I'm assuming him having that epitaph written is, that he did save his family from a sinking battleship, the lives they were living. But then I also think that he's a selfish man as well. But it's like, oh, if we would have eliminated the bullshit with Bill Murray and Owen Wilson, we could have focused more on this sort of selfish man. Like, I wanted more interiority from Royal Tenenbaum.
Yeah.
Because he was and also Angelica Houston, who I also really like.
I really like her too. She's so soft-spoken and matter-of-fact and helpful.
And I don't care for Gwyneth Paltrow, but I actually kind of enjoyed her in
I
this.
don't like her either, but I think she's very good in this.
So
Yeah.
I could have used more of like the three siblings.
Mm-hmm. My least favorite of the siblings is probably Ben Stiller, and I think by extension his kids make him more interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a. I think that because I believe this is Wes Anderson's second film after Rushmore with Bill Murray, but the soundtrack even he was able to get for this is
It's impressive.
very impressive. With the opening with Beatles and one of my favorite Rolling Stone song. I mean, was it Jackson Brown as Gwyneth steps off that bus to see Luke Wilson and how that's shot? There are
That Charlie Brown Christmas song I like.
which it always makes me sad.
It is a very sad song.
Oh my God. So yeah, there's just a lot that I find very impressive about it. And, you know, Wes Anderson does have uh, a nose for, you know, because it's very, it feels like this is something that's actually set in the 70s, which is intentional. And that's the moment where they're kids, where the two that are in love with each other, Margot and Richie, run off and hide in the African exhibit
Mm-hmm.
and camp out. That is that was a favorite book of mine as a kid. That's from, called The Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, that was made into a movie with Ingrid Bergman. That this movie, rewatching this reminded me that I have to watch that this week. I've never seen that film version. Anyway, he and I think that's also why I respond so well to Moonrise Kingdom, because I think that's where Wes Anderson found that balance again, very in a way that is unique, and where the sentiment doesn't become schmaltzy. But yeah, I remember driving to Duluth, Minnesota to see this film, and at the time, this seemed like Wes Anderson was a revelation.
Oh. Well, I only have a few notes. First off, I think one of my favorite segments is Gene Hackman trying to get in contact with his grandsons, Ben Stiller's kids, and they're like locked up in what looks like a prison, and he's at a payphone trying to tell them like, oh, you know, you need to tell your dad you want to hang out with me. And so they do, and then we see a scene where Gene Hackman takes the sons and they all do raggedy shit, like steal from a liquor store, and they go riding on a trash truck and then like throwing water balloons at people. And then when he brings them back home, one of the boys has blood on his forehead, and Ben Stiller's freaking out like, what is this blood? And Gene Hackman rubs it and goes, oh, that's just dog's blood. I thought that was funny. Then the moment when Danny Glover thinks like, oh, Gene Hackman's faking it, let me look through his shit, and he grabs like, because Gene Hackman has like a stack of prescription bottles, and Danny Glover grabs one and opens it, and these pills look like Tic Tacs. And then he calls the hospital and realizes like, oh, this hospital's been closed for a while and there's no doctor named whatever. That was really good.
Colby General.
There's a scene where Gene Hackman gets stabbed that I was very confused by.
Oh, by Pagoda.
Why did Pagoda stab him?
I don't know.
That I don't know if he was trying to give him like a legitimate.
Well, because they're trying to go stay at the Y.
But yeah, so it's like
then I thought that was like a closing the loop on their honor thing, because didn't Pagoda save him from a stabbing? Is the backstory of his relationship with Pagoda? Pagoda.
I bet that's what it is. Uh-huh. Okay, so speaking of like just random things that I think. Okay, so two things. During the wedding, there's a priest, and the priest like gets like Owen Wilson's running through the house, which I just think that scene was so unnecessary. Like, why is Owen Wilson ruining a wedding that he doesn't care about?
Exactly.
It'd be different if it were Gwyneth Paltrow and Luke Wilson getting married,
right?
Which probably is not legal, but him interrupting that wedding would have made sense. But him showing up high to interrupt, like, I don't know that it was his intention to interrupt, but he did. A wedding that doesn't affect him seems stupid. And then it's everyone running through the house, and the priest falls down the stairs and like breaks his ankle.
I mean, it was funny seeing the priest slide on the stairs.
The priest sliding down the stairs was funny, but I just feel like that was like 7 minutes of like nonsense.
Unnecessarily chaotic. Yeah.
But then, so to me, that was like, beyond the priest actually falling down the stairs, the rest of it wasn't that funny to me. But then another thing that we see is every time we see a cab, it's the Gypsy Cab Company. And every cab we see is like the most raggedy car you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, okay, to me, those kind of details are funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's more subtle, but not, but like
Mm-hmm.
it can be in the background, it's not disruptive. But then other things like,
But even then, there's that part where Dudley has to point that out about it, and it's like that.
yeah, where it's like, oh, you didn't have to do all that.
Yeah.
Okay. The film, I thought when we get to like the final like 20, 30 minutes, it felt like it was dragging on. Like, and there are 3 moments in particular where all roads were pointing to, oh, the film's going to end,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that made it feel a little longer than it should. Like it's almost like the film's having a hard time ending.
Yeah, like it's, well, like Wes Anderson is in love with himself. Yeah.
Maybe. And then my final note is when we find out that Gene Hackman died at 68, I was like, he wasn't already 68. I thought he was 68 when we met him in.
But every moment, every line delivery with him is
He's so good.
very good.
He's so good.
But I didn't realize this, that he did not get along well with Wes Anderson. But purportedly that, he was eyeing his retirement. He was convinced to do this film. And he was assured that it would be a fun experience, apparently, by Wes Anderson. Because to me, it looks like this would be fun. And then, Wes Anderson would work with many of these people over and over and over again. But I think that's why Gene Hackman across Anderson's filmography really sticks out as something brilliant to me, because he was at odds with Wes Anderson.
I bet that Wes Anderson, because you said I've seen Asteroid City in this movie.
And we saw Fantastic Mr. Fox in theaters. Yeah.
I bet that he's very like, multiple takes, try it this way, I want to see this. And I bet Gene Hackman's very much like, I learned my lines, like this is how I'm gonna do this character, I don't need to do it 3 times.
I think Wes Anderson's fussy.
And so yeah, I bet they didn't. Or if he's in a scene with another character where the other character needs multiple tries, I bet he doesn't like that.
Well, apparently there was an outburst on set where Gene Hackman got loud and said, "Hey, Wes, I thought you told me this was going to be fun. I'm not having any fun," or something like that. And apparently Bill Murray and Angelica Houston were trying to come to Wes Anderson's defense and were very upset that Gene Hackman was being so ornery. But, Hackman was, I don't think, there are several people that have talked about him being difficult to work with, but from what I understand, those were usually like, this wasn't turning out the way he wanted or thought. I think that Mr. Hackman was proud of his craft. I don't think he was trying to be a celebrity or a star ever. But
I'm pretty familiar with his filmography. Like, I mean, I've watched a lot of his films. He does seem like someone who like took his gig seriously. Mm-hmm. He was prepared, and like, also the fact that he bought that home in New Mexico, like he said he shot a movie or 2 there and really fell in love with the area, mm-hmm. and then lived there since I think the late 80s maybe. That says to me that he likes things his own pace. Mm-hmm. He doesn't like, he's unfussy. He doesn't want to deal with all the
bullshit that
right. So I could see him being like let's get this done.
But based on the last few things he did, and the fact that Welcome to Mooseport was the last thing, it's like, I think he was trying to just do a couple cute, fun things.
What did Sigourney say about working with him?
I think she loved working with him. And, all of the scenes with Sigourney and Heartbreakers are...
Well, I bet she's always very prepared.
She gets along with very difficult men that no one else seems to get along with.
Well, because I bet that she's like, she will do what you need me to do.
Yeah.
So like, if you're a 5-take wonder, then I guess we're doing 5 takes. If you like to just do it one time and get it right, I can do that too. So yeah, she seems like she can read the room.
Yes. And says many times, I'm not afraid to be directed. But, like the fact that she gets along with James Cameron, who most people can't stand, it seems, or, Mel Gibson was another one that she was very close to before all that drama. But, yeah, I think she got along well with Gene. And, Sam Raimi, I know, has talked a lot about how difficult it was directing Gene Hackman in The Quick and the Dead. But, The Quick and the Dead's a terrible film. It's not good. And then Sharon Stone, of course, was kind of running the scenes behind all of that. And I don't, and it's not good. But so, yeah. But to me, out of all of Wes Anderson's accomplishments, this Gene Hackman performance that he brought to life, I think that's the best thing that Wes Anderson has ever done.
Oh, what would you give the Royal Tenenbaums?
That said, 3.5.
I think it's very good. I would give it 3.5 out of 5. I'm glad I finally watched it. Okay, what do we have coming up next week? I know we're seeing that movie Locked with a Scars Pennywise and Sir Anthony Hopkins.
That's gonna be trash, but yeah, I think we're seeing that.
Novocaine.
I'm not looking forward to that, but yeah.
You want me to watch Mickey 17?
Well, I feel like that's something we should cover, and I did like it. I saw it in Berlin.
So there's that. Are you reading anything?
And I read the book. I'm still reading Clarice Lispector's The Apple in the Dark, which probably will take me some time to get through based on how slow I've been getting into it. But yes.
Anything else?
No.
Ta-ta.